How you going, people? Oh, shit. Here we go. The big battle is on. Okay, so I recently did a video. Well, first of all, this attorney, look, he's a civil attorney. He's forgotten more about civil law than I'll ever know, okay? Civil law and criminal law are different. The level of evidence is different. So, when I just did this video here, it was a ponytail police tell woman to kick her own door in and then arrest boyfriend. The amount of, and I won't necessarily say attacks, but the amount of people, I just did a search for wrong in the comments for this video. And these are all the comments that tell me that I was wrong. You're wrong, Rick. You're wrong. So all of these comments are the ones telling me that I got it wrong. People, right and wrong when it comes to our judicial system is subjective at best. Right and wrong is determined. We can't get 12 Supreme Court justices to agree on what right and wrong is. And before it gets to those 12, it has to go through appeals court and lower courts and superior court. And, you know, there's all these things just to get to the highest court in the land. And they rarely give out 9-0 decision where they all agree. So the fact that you want to come here and tell me that I'm wrong, okay, whatever. I'm telling you the way the law works, why cops get away with things. I don't think that I am a tyrant. A lot of people called me a tyrant in that video. Whatever. They said I was backing the police and that the police were right. I said the police didn't commit anything criminal and they were probably acting within policy on that video. And I still stand by that. Now, there was some new information that if it's true, it could be. So this first comment right here says, the landlord was interviewed. The woman had moved out and handed in her keys. Male tenant asked officers if he was in trouble with a warrant. Officer replied negative. Female officer acted like BFS, the best friend. And government won't change the laws for accountability. Law enforcement will find no wrongdoings. Correct. Shell out of taxpayer money in settlement. Correct. And reward to bad officers. Well, the reward is there's no accountability. America's fourth in purse. I'm glad my country's policy is trampled with horses, or my county's police only trample. So a lot of people have told me that the landlord said she turned in her key. Sorry, people. So what? Rick, if she turned... So what? You people want to come here and make a decision without facts and tell me that I'm wrong, and I may absolutely be 100% wrong. But this isn't about right or wrong. The law is fluid, and when you're deciding between civil and... Oh, before I forget, sorry. My live got cut off the other night, and here is the email that YouTube sent me on why I did it. We want to let you know that we reviewed your content and we think it violates our firearms policy. You may not know or realize this was a violation, so we're not applying a strike. Oh, how nice of them. They didn't apply a strike. They just took down my work product, took down my live, and deleted my work product with no due process, no nothing. Just because they're above the law. But I know somebody's going to come here and tell me I'm wrong. They're not above the law. They have immunity. They can't be sued. Therefore, they are above the law. But whatever. We're not applying a strike, however, removed your content. Well, thanks. So now I can't even copy or repost on another platform because you said I violated firearm policy, which I did not. I didn't have a firearm. There was no firearm present. The example at 1:11:45 in your video, one example. You deleted the video. I can't go back and review at 1 hour and 11 minutes because you deleted the video. We realize this may be disappointing news, but it's our job to make sure that YouTube is a safe place for all. And we think you made a mistake, and you can appeal the decision. Appeal what? You removed my video. What am I going to appeal? That you were wrong? And you come back and go, well, sorry, we got it wrong. Have a nice day. What? Content that shows someone live streaming while holding, handling, or transporting a firearm isn't allowed. I never had a gun, mentioned a gun, possessed a gun, even showed a gun. I mean, it's just, they just deleted my shit and stopped the live. Learn more We use a combination of automated systems and human reviews to detect violations. We want to help you. Community guidelines, you can go here. I can appeal here. And here's your resolution options. Whatever. I just want to let y'all know why my live stream was cut off the other night. Okay, so let me go back to the comments here and figure out what we're doing here. Back to the key thing. Let me give you a scenario, which has happened probably, I would say 50 or 100, but at least 20 times. You go to a house and people are on and off in a relationship. And they were broken up last week, and this week she's living there. Does she have a key? Doesn't matter. That's not the only factor. Again, totality of the situation to determine whether a crime has occurred and whether this is a civil matter. It doesn't really matter if it's civil or criminal. As a cop shows up there, we either identify a crime or we don't. And then we either leave or we stand by to keep the peace. But remember, cops have no duty to act, so cops get to decide whether they want to stand by and look for trouble or get into trouble or exert their authority, or whether they want to leave. And there's no accountability. And there's no consistency. And there's no requirement for them to do either. They can leave or they can stay. They can stay and look for trouble. They can leave and say screw it and let somebody get killed. There's no accountability. So for everybody to come here and tell me I got it wrong, you people who are saying I got it wrong, you don't get it. And I'm not going to argue with you because you can believe what you want. Okay, I was wrong. Great. Wonderful. Civil matters and determining residency is a complex deal that normally you go before a judge, and a judge hears all evidence from both parties to determine residency. Things that cops use when we're there that is an indicator of residency is, do you receive mail? Is your address there, like on your driver's license, car registration, insurance forms, which would relate to, are you getting mail there and you're claiming you live there? Do you have personal items in there? Do the parties agree that you live or have lived there or stayed there? How long have you stayed there? Did you just sleep over one night? Or have you been staying here for 6 months on and off? Sometimes 3 times a week, sometimes 2 times a week. So did you have dinner there? Were you there last night? When was the last time you stayed there? When was the last time before that? When you don't stay here, where are you living? Are you receiving mail at your other place that you live? Why is your address here and not at the other place? These are all questions in an investigation to determine whether somebody is living there or not. And then if somebody kicks somebody out of a place they're living, that moves into criminal. In order to determine if a person committed a criminal act by denying somebody who lives there, like a landlord locking you out because you didn't pay rent, that's a criminal act. They can't do that. It moves out of civil. In a landlord dispute, it's pretty simple. You have a contract, you have a lease. I lease it. It's my property. The landlord can't go in arbitrarily. It can only go in. So cops have to have a kind of raw understanding of possession, civil law versus criminal law. It's pretty easy for criminal. Either you committed a crime. If you did commit a crime, what's the crime? What's the elements of the crime? And did you meet those elements of the crime? Okay? We'll take burglary, for instance. Burglary is a crime. Well, what's the elements of burglary? A person enters a building, structure, or place with the intent to steal, which means the elements of the crime is I have to prove you intended or have to believe, probable cause, I don't have to prove, I just have to have probable cause to arrest you. The court has to prove it to convict you. But I got to prove the intent or believe there was intent for you to steal or commit any felony. What's a felony? Well, there's a whole bunch of felonies. Embezzlement, check fraud, signing, forgery, there's white-collar crime, and then there's rape, and there's assault on a domestic violence. There's all kind of felonies you can commit. But for me to arrest you and say that there was a crime of burglary, I got to have probable cause to believe that you met the elements. You entered, and you entered with the intent to either steal or commit. So that's one crime out of the multitude of crimes with elements that the cop needs to find. Is this a criminal act or is it a civil act? In this particular case, I said numerous times in a video, I don't know what officers knew and didn't know. I don't know what questions they asked. I don't know if their determination that she actually lived there was reasonable or not. So for people to say, I got it wrong, I said I didn't know. The fact of the matter is, I think everybody agrees. she did live there. She did have a key. And at one point, she had personal items in the house. I think everybody kind of can agree on that. The muddy part is how long has she moved out? When was the last time she stayed? So what, she turned in her key. So I turn in my key, and then a week later we make up. And I move back in, and all my stuff's there, and I don't change my address or anything. And when I move back in, you don't want to give me a key until we see if we can make it for 2 months. So I'm living there for a month and 3 weeks, and the cops come, and you say, well, I don't have a key. Oh, well, then you don't live there. That's bullshit. You have been living there. Your things are there. You're representing. Your life is in that house. So this complex issue of determining whether somebody lives there or not, it's bullshit. Believe me, as a cop, I didn't like dealing with it because I got to make judgment calls that I probably ring with less than honest or correct information. And it turns out that sometimes maybe we get it wrong. I don't remember cases where I got it wrong or right because it doesn't matter. As a peace officer, I'm there to kind of keep the peace, or at least I was. I wasn't there to look to arrest somebody. Now, if both parties were just going to argue and say, if you leave her here, I'm going to punch her out. Then we have crime. We kind of have, she's threatening. Now she feels intimidated. Do we let this party in the house and steal shit? How much can she get? Normally on these things, if I did a civil standby, it'd be like, look, what items do you want to get? Well, there's all my pictures and there's that. No. We're not doing that. That's for the court to decide on a later date. What do you need to get out now and to go to court? What is something that you're totally concerned that you must have? Well, I need my makeup and my makeup bag. Okay. Can you make it with that? Great. I go to the other party and I go, dude, she wants her makeup and her makeup bag and she'll leave. We don't have to be here. This thing can't escalate. Can you at least let her get her makeup bag? Okay, man, I'll agree to that. She can go in and she can get her makeup bag and leave and we'll end this. Perfect. And then we bring her in and on the way, well, that's mine and I want that. And I'm like, whoa. That ain't going to happen. You need to go get your makeup. That's what we agreed on. We are not doing a search and letting you run around and say what's yours. And I'm not determining all that to get you guys in an argument. This is not a court. This is a temporary fix to settle this for tonight till you guys can go to court. And that's the way I think most reasonable cops handle civil standbys. This case obviously was not normal. This female cop, I think, was out of line. I think it was bullshit what she did. Was it unlawful per the law? I'm not a jackboot. I'm not saying cops should be able to do it. I'm telling you, you people that want to come attack me every time I say the cops are okay, you just make yourself look unreasonable. Look, I don't care if you hate cops. I hate most cops. I think most cops are out of control. But there still has to be some reasonable expectation of fairness. And if you tell a cop that this is legal, if you tell a cop this is the law, this is what you can do, and do it this way, and a cop does it that way, it's not fair to come back later and go, man, the cop's jackboot, that's bullshit. If you tell me, as a cop, when I respond to a domestic or a dispute, a civil dispute on property, that my job is to determine whether or not she has legal custody of the place, whether he unlawfully evicted her, whether she has a right to, I mean, most cops, older times, it would be like, dude, you just need to leave and go to court. Just leave the woman here, it's easier, and make the guy leave. And that was the way that these used to be handled, 30 years ago. It was like, dude, she's here, she's a woman, she can't go find a place, you got the money, you got the job, you got the truck, she's going to take care of the kids are here, they got to go to school, it's more stable for the kids to stay here, she's going to stay, you're going to leave. If you don't leave, we're going to have to arrest you. And that's the way it used to be handled. I think now it's a little bit more, very little more equal. Women don't get immediate 100%. But the laws in our society always gives women more consideration, more leeway. They're allowed to hit. They're allowed to violate the law. They're allowed to get loud. They're allowed to do a bunch of shit that men aren't allowed to do. The law is equal, Rick. You're full of shit. You're wrong. Okay, I'm wrong. Whatever. There's reality. There's moral wrong. There's legal wrong. And then it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, and 5 justices say what's wrong and right, and the other 4 says what they think is wrong or right. So for you to come here and tell me that I got it wrong, whatever, people. Now, in this case, right here, somebody put a link to this case, which I thought was pretty interesting. And this is the lawyer again. Once again, for the record, this guy is a lawyer. He knows civil law. I'm not trying to second guess him. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm telling you from a cop's perspective how things are perceived, or what cops are taught and what cops believe is legal and how they're doing their job. You can hate me and disagree, whatever. But in this case, I don't think the cops did anything unlawful. I even think what the judge did is okay. And I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this. I don't agree with it. I think it's bullshit that judges can do this, but the law is going to back this judge. The fact that the judge is a woman even gives her more leeway, and he filed a civil suit. So if you remember this case, you can go watch the whole thing. This is just part 2, but this is the case.
High-profile cases, video footage cases, the searching the home.
People reach out to us about a viral video posted by a local attorney. It shows a Raleigh County family court judge showing up to a home to do a hearing and a search and seizure for a contempt case without a warrant. Now the legality of it is being questioned, and Newswatch reporter Anna Saunders joins us live.
Shortly after I originally uploaded it, the news wanted to interview us, so we went on the news. And we showed the television news where this happened at my client's house. Since then, hundreds of people probably have called me, including in this very family court as well.
Judge Louise Goldston was presiding over a case involving Matt Gibson and his ex-wife. She filed a contempt after the divorce was finalized to get more of the items they agreed upon, like DVDs and pictures. When Gibson stated in the courtroom that he wasn't sure if he had them or wasn't sure where they were, the judge decided to take the hearing to his home.
Okay, so this is where we get into a lot of if, and, buts, and coconuts. A judge can issue a verbal order. A search warrant is a court order. An arrest warrant is a court order. When cops act on court orders, they are acting under lawful and legal things. Now, I stop many people with arrest warrants. An arrest warrant is a court order. The judge signs it and it says, I order any peace officer in the state, when they come in contact with this person, to take them into custody. That is a court order, and cops can use the thing, hey, I got no choice, it's a court order. That's bullshit. I've let many people go with arrest warrants and did not take them to court. And am I violating the law? Is that contempt? If a judge wanted to, when I let somebody go with an arrest warrant, a judge could have held me in contempt and brought me into court. Do they do that to cops? No, because government protects government, etc. But technically, by the law, a judge could hold a cop in contempt for failure to enforce their order, and they could put the cop in jail. Now, I'm a adamant proponent of getting away with judges' ability to hold people in contempt. It is absolutely, in my opinion, unconstitutional. It is bullshit. It denies somebody due process. A judge has no checks and balances. They can just set you in court, and I watch this happen, I don't know how many times in my career. Somebody doesn't do what the judge says or pisses them off in the courtroom, and she looks at the bailiff and says, put him in custody for contempt. Let him sit in jail for a couple days, see what he thinks. No due process, no probable cause, no judicial review, nothing. Any judge can do that. I think that's outrageous. However, you can call me a jackboot. It happens 1,000 times a day, and it's illegal. It's bullshit, but it's legal. So, as a cop, when I let people go for warrants, most of them were like misdemeanor warrants. I'm like, I'm not going to book this person. The jail's freaking full of felons. We got violent people. This warrant's bullshit. This guy's not a threat to anybody. He failed to show up in court for some freaking, DUI or something, and he didn't go to court. Big freaking deal. I'm not going to, I'm looking for guys with guns and major drug dealers or career criminals that are bad dudes that are stabbing and killing and terrorizing the community right now. And I'm going to waste my time to arrest this poo-butt warrant of a misdemeanor because some judge signed it because the guy didn't show up for court. It's a failure to appear warrant. And I just usually didn't arrest for failure to appear. I'd tell the guy, look, dude, I don't want to take 2 hours, book you, do a bunch of paperwork, bring you to jail, and you know what the jail's going to do? The jail is going to say, we're full of violent criminals. This guy's nonviolent. Here's your ticket. Nice day. And then they release him like within 30 minutes that I book him because the jail's full. So in my mind, being a reasonable officer, reasonable taxpayer, it was a waste of time, money, and resources to put this guy in jail. So I was like, screw it. I ain't booking him. I've only done it once with a felony warrant. Most felony warrants, I would book them because I know they would keep them. They wouldn't be released. It was a felony. But there was one case where I let a felony go. She was pregnant. She was about to have a baby. She looked like she was about to bust any second. I was like, I don't even want to transport her because she might have a freaking baby when I'm transporting her. And I said, I definitely don't want to put her in handcuffs, put her through freaking a stressful booking, lock her up. The taxpayers are going to have to pay for the freaking expense of having a baby, etc. And I go, screw it. I'm letting her go. And a couple officers there are like, dude, you can't do that. It's a felony warrant. You're not allowed to let her go. I go, I ain't booking her. I'm giving her a ticket. Promise to appear. Sign here. You need to appear in court and take care of this felony warrant. She went okay. And I let her go. Could a judge have put me in jail for contempt? Yeah. As a taxpayer, do I think that was reasonable? Yes. Would I like cops doing that on my behalf if I'm paying their salaries and paying taxes in my community? Yes. And I tried to be a cop that I would want working in my community and dealing things from my point of view as a citizen and a taxpayer. That's the kind of cop I tried to be. So, right, wrong, or indifferent, did I violate the law? Yeah, I did. Maybe I was a jackboot cop. If I can violate that law, why can't I violate other laws? In my opinion, intent on why someone does something is more important than the letter law. In California, I'm not sure about other states, California law is based on the intent of the law and spirit, not the letter, which is why you can get out of tickets when you go, hey, you rolled through a stop sign. If you argue California law is based on the intent, there was nobody present. I rolled through at such a pace that it was slower than a walk, and I slowed down. I looked both ways, and even though I was moving, I was still stationary, almost stationary in the stop sign for over 5 seconds. It was reasonable that there was no reason or I didn't endanger anybody. And maybe I didn't make a complete stop, but I did follow the intent of the law that I didn't recklessly run through a stop sign and endanger anybody. And your ticket will probably get dismissed if the judge is a stand-up judge. A judge may go, I don't care, violation of law, letter of law. That's not what it's supposed to be, but a judge can do what they want. And in this previous case, the cops can do what they want. They all have immunity. And in this case that I'm reviewing now, this judge can do what she wants. I know people are going to say, well, he sued, Rick. I get it. He did sue, and he filed, and he's probably going to get a settlement. But whatever, here we go.
And began searching through it with Raleigh County deputies. Gibson, a federal agent himself, felt it wasn't right and began filming. Take a look.
Basically, 1.5 years earlier, the divorce had ended by an agreement. There was a list of physical personal property that had to be divided. So 1.5 years later, the ex-wife says, I didn't get all these items, including several DVDs. Her lawyer files a motion to reopen the case and to hold my client in contempt. He wasn't my client at that time.
So when you don't comply with a court order in family court, and a lot of people may or may not have been there, in family court, when a judge says, okay, I got both parties here, okay, you want this and you want that, okay, I think this is reasonable, I think you get that, you agree, blah, blah. The parties agree. And so they tell the person in control of the items, okay, you have 30 days to turn over these items to this person. So if you don't do that, you're in violation of the court order. The judge just ordered you to do that. You agreed to it, and now you're failing to turn it over. So this party who was harmed that didn't get their stuff or said they didn't get it, even if you gave it to them, can file a motion to the family court saying, hey, this person violated your order and I haven't got my stuff. And then the way it's supposed to work is you both go back and you both argue. I did give it to her. Well, why didn't you? Blah, blah, blah. Normally, the way these things are handled, and I've been in family court a lot of times. When I worked child abduction for 3 years, a lot of my cases ended in family court with this bullshit, fighting over kids and fighting over shit. Normally, the judge will say, okay, he owes you this DVDs, this dress, your wedding dress, and the wedding pictures. Okay. How much do you think those are worth? And the person will go, well, I don't know. There's no value. It's sentimental. Well, everything has value. What do you think those things are worth? And then the woman will be crying, my wedding dress is probably worth $100,000. And the judge will go, well, that's unreasonable. What did you pay for the wedding dress? It was $500. Okay, I'm going to give you $1,000 for the wedding dress. $500 for sentimental value and $500 for what you paid. I think that's reasonable. And then they will turn to the defendant and say, you have a choice. Either give her the dress or give her $1,000. What do you want? And if the guy goes, I'll give her $1,000, then he has to pay her. If he doesn't pay her, he's in contempt. If he says, I'll give her the dress, if he doesn't give her the dress, he has to give it to her or he's in contempt. So in this case that he's talking about, this guy, either or, I don't know. You never know the truth in family court because everybody lies. This guy said, I can't find the stuff that she wants, and I've given her everything that she wanted, but the stuff that she's asking, I don't know where it's at, which is a common ploy when people are playing freaking games in civil court or in family court to where they hate each other more than they want to move on. And this is normally when both of them are so hurt or feeling and they just want to screw with the other party. This judge decided to take this party to the house and search for the shit. Lots of issues here, but I think she's perfectly fine. And criminally, she's 100% fine. Civilly, this lawyer is trying to remove her immunity and sue her. I personally think he's going to lose on removing her immunity, and the taxpayers are going to pay his salary, and I'll get to that. Here we go.
And he shows up and says, I don't have these items or whatever the case may be. And the judge basically says, well, I'm going to go to your house and I'm going to see for myself if these items are in your house. And that's what she did.
So in this case, what she could have done, again, this is legal. What she did, I still think is legal. Judges do this shit. Judges are unaccountable. They can do whatever the hell they want. She's been a judge for 26 years and is still a judge and was disciplined by the board for doing this and admitted that there's no rule or law that she could do this. And she's still a judge. And she's been a judge for 26 years. And people are going to come here, Rick, you're wrong. You're wrong, man. She was wrong. She did it. And she's still working. If she was wrong, show me what. What's the consequence? Cops are wrong every day. There's no consequence. Here we go.
I need a list of everything that we're looking for.
Oh, I meant to say, she could have turned to the bailiff and said, I'm issuing a verbal order for you to go to his house and search for the items on this list. If you find them, seize them and bring them to me. And that would have been a lawful warrant. Now, it gets into iffy because a warrant is supposed to be sworn under oath, under affidavit, that there's a crime. In her context as a judge, she's already determined there's a crime of contempt, which I think contempt shouldn't be a crime. It's bullshit. Judges are allowed to throw it around, arrest you, and put you in jail and with no due process. It's an absolute unconstitutional bullshit law. And everybody's going to come here, you're wrong, man. Judges are allowed to hold you in contempt and they have to control their court. Rick, shut up. It's bullshit. No person should be able to throw you in jail with no court, no crime, or nothing. That's what our FISA courts are doing now. That's what they're doing to the January 6 people. It's bullshit. Our Constitution says that we have a right to confront our accuser and a right to present our side of the case. We don't have to give evidence against ourselves. There's all kind of protections so this doesn't happen, and yet it happens every day, 1,000 times a day in contempt. If you went through this country, I bet you there's 1,000 cases of contempt every day, probably more like 10,000. So judges hand out contempts all the freaking time. Anyway, here we go. She could have ordered a verbal warrant and told the deputies to go do this. I think she would have been on better ground than going with herself. But if she can order a cop to go do it, why can't she follow the cop and do it? DAs show up on crime scenes all the time. A lot of DAs will say you're not supposed to. It's not a good idea. You can become a witness, but they do it anyway. And the reason they do it is, hey, I'm going to be prosecuting. I have more information. They usually don't show up on a lot of crime scenes that are minor. But if there's a multiple homicide, DAs show up all the time. They want to see the scene. They want to see what it looks like. They get a visual picture. Later, a year or two later, they can testify in court that, hey, in their opening, closing arguments, I went to this crime scene. I saw the carnage. I saw the damage. I smelt the broken glass and, radiator fluid, blood, whatever they want to say. And it makes an impact with the jury because they were there. And it gives them kind of buy-in to the crime. So DAs show up to a case, but they can become a potential witness. A judge can show up to a case. I mean, nobody's going to order a judge out of a crime scene. I mean, I probably would. I'd probably say, hey, you can't be in here. It's a crime scene. You're contaminating evidence. And they would probably say, I'll hold your ass in contempt. You can't tell me shit. I'll have you arrested right now. And I'd probably be like, I don't know if cops would freaking arrest you and follow that order and put me in jail. But since I don't know, I guess you can stay and we'll deal with it later. So, I mean, I was on a crime scene where the sheriff showed up. And it was a homicide. And the body was there. We were searching. We were working a case. And the sheriff showed up. And he's looky-looing, walking around, destroying evidence. And the investigator that was handling the lead agent on this case was a DA investigator, a friend of mine. And we worked cases together. And he told the sheriff, he goes, hey, if you don't have a reason to be in here, you need to leave. And the sheriff goes, I'm the sheriff. You can't tell me to leave. And he's like, yeah, I can. It's a crime scene, and you're interfering with the investigation, and you have no lawful purpose to be here. You're not writing a report. You're not investigating anything. You're just here looky-looing. You need to get out of the crime scene. And the sheriff left. He was pissed off. He called the DA. The DA called the DA investigator in, and the DA investigator goes, man, you're right. He shouldn't have been there. I'll talk to him. And that's how it was handled. But whatever. So for people to come here and start yelling that I was wrong and I don't know what I'm talking about and I'm a jackboot and I'm supporting. If you just want to blow your own horn and make this about you being right, me being wrong, well, knock yourself out. I'm telling you what people are allowed to do and what I've seen them do. And when there's no accountability, how can you say who's right and wrong?
You've got a list of everything that's worked for it's attached
Not
to
today.
the order.
Not today. I don't know where someone was at.
Well, we're going to find
you got
it.
it?
Your motion's denied. It's not timely filed.
I need a search warrant.
Okay, so because he's a federal agent, he understands that a search warrant, when you search a house, as the owner of the house, you're entitled to a copy of the warrant. As a cop, if I serve a search warrant on your house, I'm required to give you a copy of the warrant when I get there. And when I get there, I say, here's the warrant. And on the warrant, it says why I think you committed a crime, what evidence I'm looking for to support that crime. And that's what it is. And a lot of people go, well, if he's not even convicted, you shouldn't even be there. Well, that's because you're an idiot. I mean, that's not what the law says. The law says the reason you do a search warrant is to find evidence, to charge somebody. You don't have to charge a crime before you get a search warrant. Now, a subpoena, you do need to have a crime charge, and then the DA can issue a subpoena, which is a search warrant. A DA can issue a subpoena and say, give me this information. And the information has to be supplied. It's a court order. When the DA signs it, it's considered from the court, and it's a court order. I used to sign subpoenas on a case for documents. I mean, I work for the DA's office. Somebody say I need a subpoena. I'd go out in the car. I had these forms thrown out. I'd sign at the bottom. In the place where it said what I wanted, I'd write in what I wanted, and I'd give it to them. And then they'd be like, okay, as long as I'm covered, they'd take that piece of paper and do it. Was it lawful or legal if it was ever challenged? You know, maybe. I mean, again, everything is if, and, buts, and coconuts. It's up to the judge. It's up to the DA. Does the DA want to fight it? Does the DA not care? How hard does the defense want to fight it? Is the defense ready to appeal? Does the judge care if the defense appeals? So there's all these complex issues in court, and I'm going to have people in the comments here come here and tell me, Rick, you're wrong. She turned in her key, so that proves that she doesn't have any right. That's so bullshit. There's plenty of people that with electronic keys, they don't even have a key. They got the combination. Somebody will change a combination. And now you're going to say, well, because they don't have the combination, they're not entitled to be in there? You'd be wrong, according to the law. But whatever. All right, here we go. Back to this case.
You won't get in my house without a search warrant.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Okay, I think I remember doing a case on this. And I think I remember saying the judge can do what she did. And I stood by. When I say stand by, I think it's bullshit what she's doing. I think it's unethical. I think she's ignoring the law and the spirit and intent of law, and that's not her job. But can she do it? Not only can she do it, she did it. And she's not criminally charged for anything. So if you're going to go by right or wrong, whether somebody is criminally charged, she was never criminally charged with anything. So was she right? Man, that's bullshit, Rick. You're just taking the side of Jack Bush.
She left the courthouse, apparently, and about 10, 15 minutes later, she shows up with law enforcement, and she says he's going to search.
Never criminally charged. So, is she right or wrong? Can she do it or not? She did it, and she was never criminally charged. Well, civilly, she's wrong. Yeah, and she's going to get sued. And guess what? She has immunity. And he's not going to be able to pull this immunity. Even though she violated, she had no rules, she had no statute, I guarantee you, you watch. If he gets her immunity pulled, it will be the first time ever that I've ever heard of a government official losing their immunity. Maybe there's a bunch of cases I don't know about, but I'm going to predict, and this is a 2021 case, so I don't know if they've been to trial or not. I don't know if it's already been settled. I could be speaking out my ass, and he got a settlement. He got her immunity pulled, and she was criminally or civilly held liable, and she had to pay damages. I don't believe that's going to happen. He's going to file the suit. The city's going to end up settling, and they're going to pay his fees. Remember, in civil trials, if your client is awarded $1, all attorney fees are paid. So you'll commonly hear in civil trials the civil attorney arguing that my client was damaged, and I don't care if you don't think he deserves $100 million, but surely he deserves at least $1 for his things because of what he went through. And sometimes a jury will say, yeah, and they'll award $1. And guess what? All the attorney fees are paid by the taxpayers. So unless you understand how our laws are so screwed up when you get into it, I don't really care if people say I'm wrong. I would like to think I'm giving good information that's reasonable and that helps you make a better decision. I know I'm not right 100%. I don't even know what the definition of right or wrong is anymore in this freaking country. But whatever. Here we go.
His house. He verbally asks her to recuse himself, which was a good move, and she denies it, stating that it's not a timely motion.
In family court, people always want the judge dismissed because they think they're being treated unfair. Both parties usually ask the judge dismissed because they think they're being unfair. It happens. How many times have I seen a judge move away from a case? Let me count. 0. I've never, in my experience working, never seen a judge say, I agree, I don't think I can be unbiased in this. I'm going to remove myself. Never. Has it happened? I'm sure it has. I've never seen it happen.
And he says, well, you're not getting in my house without a warrant. And she says, oh, yes, I am. He's threatened with arrest.
Who thinks that you can stop the police from entering your house if they don't have a warrant? Raise your hand. You're a dummy if you got your hand up. If the cops want in your house and you try and stop them, you're going to jail or you're getting shot. Can you try and stop them? You can, but you are not going to stop the police from getting in your house just because they don't have a warrant. Well, Rick, that's against the Constitution. You're a jackboot, and how dare you? I'm telling you facts, people. Don't hate somebody because they tell you the truth. Well, you can. You can hate me. I don't care. Whatever. You're not going to stop them. You can fight it later in court. You can state your objection. You can say, I don't consent. I think this is unlawful. I am not consenting to anything. You can say whatever you want. But if the cops want to come in your house, they're coming in or they're killing or arresting you. Period. Rick, you're a jackboot. Okay, whatever.
They make him turn his cell phone off so that he can't continue to record. And the judge...
I've got a big problem with turning off cell phone because he's on his own property. He can videotape. That would be like a judge coming on your property and saying, oh, he's got video cameras up. Find a video camera, seize the footage, and cover up all those cameras. That's pretty egregious in my book. I think even other judges might find that offensive. But most judges don't find any other judge's behavior offensive because they don't want to live by standards that they impose on others. And right now, judges are totally unaccountable. They have complete immunity, and they can hold you in contempt if you piss them off. Who wants to give that up? That's great power. Hell, even Congress and cops can. If you think if cops could hold you, cops do kind of hold you in contempt when they arrest you for disorderly. That's basically a bullshit contempt charge. But it's a criminal charge where at least they're booking you and writing down information, and you have a right to confront, and the DA has to file or convict you or put it in front of a jury. So you have some due process. A judge with contempt, nothing. You're in contempt. Get your ass in jail. Come see you in a couple days. Walk back there. You want to apologize to me or you want to stay in jail? Fuck you. Stay in jail. Walks away. You don't get out. You don't get a court date. You don't get due process. Nothing. And when she lets you out or he lets you out, guess what? Can't sue her. Immunity. She held you in contempt. It's lawful. It's legal. Rick, you're a big jackboot. You're just as good as whatever.
And the deputy go in his house and they search it.
They seized the photos off the wall. They searched his closet.
Okay, so they seized photos off the wall. that kind of tells me that the photos was what she wanted and what he probably agreed. Now, I could be wrong. Maybe they see stuff that, I think I read the complaint. I read the complete complaint on this. So for somebody to come here and you know what I'm talking about, I read the complete complaint, which is here, and I read the entire 38 pages. So I'm talking from reading this. And if you want to go read it, you're more than welcome to go read it. If you go to his video, it says Family Court Judge Searches My Client's House Part 2. This link right here will take you to the document that I just showed you. So I've read the entire 38 pages. And I could go over it, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's mundane.
Attorney John Bryan, who then put it up on YouTube. He said he handles lots of illegal search and seizure cases, but never one like this.
So when he says unlawful search and seizure, again, if it was unlawful search and seizure, that's a crime. Not only is it a civil crime, it's burglary. It's breaking and entering. It's entering. Did this judge enter this house with armed cops against his will? Yes. Did she take property that was his without a warrant? Yes. That is the definition of burglary. They entered by force without consent with the intent to steal property. Not only did they intend, they stole property and took it and gave it to someone else. Rick, that's a crime, and they should be arrested, and you got it wrong. They weren't arrested, and they weren't charged, and there was no criminal complaint filed, and it wasn't put in front of a grand jury. Rick, you're wrong. You don't know, man. This guy's an attorney, and he's smarter than you. When it comes to civil, he is extremely more smart than me. Like I said, he's forgotten more about civil law than I'll ever know. But I'm telling you from a crime point, and cops usually deal in criminal side of the law. They're not civil enforcement. Now, they will enforce some civil things like evictions. An eviction is normally a civil process. But because it's highly dangerous, etc., they will have armed cops remove you from the house that you're evicted and use force doing it. You know, this right and wrong shit that people want to pull out all the time, I'm like, you just kind of show your ignorance that you think you know everything if you're going to say that you're 100% right and you're 100% wrong. All right.
I don't know if I've ever really heard that my house was illegally searched by a judge. And the reason for that is because that's not what judges do.
I'm being facetious, but he's actually wrong. Judges sign warrants that are unlawful where information is withheld by the cop and it's an unlawful warrant, and the judge signs the order and the cops execute the search warrant signed by the judge. Therefore, the judge is ordering an unlawful search and seizure. I'm just being a smart ass. I know what he's talking about. Judges don't normally show up and direct searches.
Judges do not search houses. Judges do not search anything.
He says he has not been able to find other cases like this in his research, but he believes it is in strong violation of the Fourth Amendment.
The information I have as of right now is that there was no warrant, and I don't see any, there wasn't consent. You can see that from the video.
That is a lawful order from a court. There's no warrant in the concept of a warrant is an affidavit signed and sworn under oath and presented to a judge and normally run through the DA so he can prosecute and defend the warrant. And a warrant is required that you list specific things that you're searching for and seizing that will supported by your affidavit, probable cause, statement of probable cause that you swore to, and then it's reviewed by a judge and the judge says, okay, this is reasonable. In this case, the argument is just like inevitable discovery. If I've talked about inevitable discovery, remember, if I'm search something illegally and I find evidence illegally, I can still get it admitted to the court. Rick, you're wrong. If evidence is seized illegally, it's not admitted in court. Well, that's because you're an idiot. I'm telling you, evidence seized illegally is admitted in court all the time. Rick, you don't know what you're talking about. Okay, I'll give you the case that decided this inevitable discovery case. Cops were searching for a gun. They got the suspect. They beat a confession out of him. He told them under duress, getting beaten, hurt, that the gun, he threw it in a sewer right down the street. They went to the sewer, search, found the gun. The gun was seized unlawfully because the guy was beat and was used coerced. Therefore, they shouldn't have found the gun. So the gun was suppressed. Guess what? It was admitted through inevitable discovery because the courts ruled that because in this city, all drain sewers were always searched with any gun violence crimes nearby. And the officers would have searched that as a common course and procedure that they did every gun crime. The government proved that. The DA said it happened. The cops prove it. They pulled 20, 30 cases where they always searched the gutters. Therefore, they would have found the gun anyway. Therefore, it's not suppressed, and the government gets to use it against the guy. Rick, you don't know what you're talking about. If they seized it illegally, it's not admitted. Well, that's because you're an idiot. Rick, you can't call people an idiot. Well, I just did. All right, here we go.
And I'm unaware of any information as to any exigency. If we allow...
Exigency. He's not aware of any exigency. My argument, the judge would say, this had been going on for a year. The guy is obviously not complying with my order. The defendant said she did not get the stuff. I want to see if the stuff is there and put an end to this. And if I don't go today, because he knows if I go get a warrant, he has a chance to destroy those items. So I would argue, not morally that I think this is good, but in the term of legal battle, I would argue the judge felt there was an exigency because she let him out of the courtroom and he knew that she was going to order a warrant to go search his house. He could have destroyed those items. Now, the other side would argue, if the judge thought that, then she could have detained him in court while they got the warrant, and therefore there wouldn't have been an exigency, and she could have gotten a warrant. That's what they tell cops to do. If you can detain somebody, there's no exigency for you to go in and search, go get a warrant. Again, if and buts and coconuts, that's our laws.
The integrity of the judicial system.
What integrity of the judicial system? What's he talking about? I like the guy. Really? He's talking about integrity of the judicial system?
To be bent in any way, I mean, it is just a ripple effect. It's a slippery slope. And the courts are nothing without their legitimacy.
Hey guys, I need you off my property, please. Hey, you ain't allowed on my property.
This guy's a federal agent, and he's telling cops that show up that he's not allowed on his property. Again, federal agents don't know all the law. If a cop pulls up on your property, you can't trespass law enforcement. If they're in the course of their business and they're conducting a lawful investigation or what they think is a lawful investigation, it may be an illegal investigation that may be determined later to be illegal, but at the time the officer did it, they thought it was legal. They're allowed to be there, and you can't stop them. And if you stop them, you're going to get arrested for obstruction of investigation. Sorry, people. Rick, you're a jackboot, and I'm just telling you the law. Relax.
When I first went on the TV news, just days really after this had happened, I had expressed my opinion that maintain the integrity of they rely on you have no respect. And without integrity, you have no respect. And I think that's probably the reason that you see some of these judicial investigation folks jump on these things so quickly.
I turned in a cop on a judicial investigation he's talking about, and they didn't do shit. Absolutely nothing. It was in family court. A judge was a dick to a girl who was prostituting herself and trying to take her kid, and I can't remember all the aspects, but he gave her a raw deal. He just freaking totally, he was the religious judge that wanted the God, and Judge Fall was his name. And he was a complete dick on the bench because he believed in God, and if you didn't believe in God, you weren't really worthy, and if you did, then he would do anything for you. So, and this girl comes in dressed in the best clothes she could, and it kind of looked, I don't know how to say, a little hookerish or trashy, or it didn't look like semi-formal attire for court. I agree, it wasn't the best, but it was the best she had. And he demeaned her and kicked her out of court and in open court in front of a bunch of people and witnesses and everybody and said, "Counselor, you need to get your client out of this courtroom until she learns how to dress appropriately for my court and not come in here looking like that." And I don't remember if he said some trashy slut whore. I don't remember what his words, but it was so outrageous. I was so offended for this poor girl that I filed a complaint on his ass. I understand that judges should be held accountable. I also understand that they're not.
And it was this very same county that a magistrate judge was removed from office for misconduct that really...
I've seen one judge removed from misconduct. One. Now, that just means I've seen it. I don't know if there's more. This judge would have a pickle on the freaking bench, And he would commonly refer to it kind of like to his staff, like, you want to use this and make all these sexual innuendos about a pickle. He was an older judge. I thought he was a pretty nice guy. He's kind of funny. And I never saw him do any of this in front of me, but everyone knew that he was pretty open with his sexist remarks about women and pickles and, sexual innuendos on the court and kind of embarrassed women. I never saw it. I only saw him when he signed my warrants, when we were in the courtroom or when we were in the back in his office and he was reviewing my warrant and we were joking around or whatever. So I thought he was a good old country boy and I kind of liked him, but his behavior was really inappropriate. And finally, one of the secretaries, your courtroom reporters, sued him because she got all this on the record and she kept it. And then they end up filing a suit. He didn't get charged criminally. He didn't have to pay any money. He simply retired. Well, that'll show him, these judges. People, you need to realize when I make my opinion on something, I usually have other things, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. I'm just saying I think I have a pretty good reason on why I believe what I believe. And if you can give me new information and make me believe different, then I'm all for it. But if your only new information is you're wrong and you're a jackboot and you just love cops, whatever.
It wasn't as outrageous as what you see here in this video, but it wasn't altogether that dissimilar. Within just a day or two of uploading that YouTube video into what had happened in this state and in most states, and from what I understand, that investigation sort of got bigger and bigger.
So basically he says he was waiting for the investigation to file the lawsuit until the investigators for this judge would do their case. And the reason he waited, which is reasonable, and I'm not saying he's a bad guy for doing it, they do this all the time. If I've got a government agency doing an investigation and they're going to interview people and interview witnesses and review the case and then do a final report, and I'm going to be able to subpoena that report, and then they've done a lot of my work for me. They've also corroborated things that I already believe, and now I can pick and choose statements and things from that case, and I can use it in my lawsuit for my client. So he had to wait for their investigation. At first look, I'm like, why wouldn't you file a lawsuit and screw their investigation and get this in a court system? But I understand why. Because he wanted them to do their work. And if you read this case that I showed here, this entire case here, he actually quotes some of her statements, etc. Now, I didn't see in his filing where he did a deposition of this judge. And I'm not sure why he didn't do a deposition. Maybe he did and he didn't say it. But a deposition allows you to ask anything you want. And he could have got so much incriminating stuff because he got her statement from the Judicial Review Board, and her statement was pretty much hanging. There's no rule or law that allows me to do that. I just do it. I've seen other judges do it. It's common. She admitted that normally she does this when both attorneys agree. So in her statement, which she convened to the complaint board, is that normally when I have a case like this, I get the attorneys together and I go, look, we think your client has it. And the other attorney goes, my client says he doesn't have it. Well, would either one of you object to us going to the house and searching your client's house? And the attorney go like, my client doesn't have a problem. Come search the house. And the other attorney go, yeah, we'd like to search the house. And then both attorneys and both parties and the judge would go to the house and they would search it. And that's different because it was consensual and everybody agreed. Then she admitted in her statement to the board that I think I've only been to the house 2 times when a person was per se defending themselves. And when you present yourself, I think it's admin per se or whatever, that's where you represent yourself. You don't have an attorney. And in this case, this federal guy did not have an attorney. He had an attorney previously, which doesn't matter, because his attorney would have never agreed to this if he had any brain. I can't believe there's any attorney that agrees to this. The only attorneys that agree to this is when they're looking for something that the attorney knows is not at their house. And that's the only contention here. We're not looking for multiple items. We're looking for one thing that my client says he doesn't have. And the attorney knows he doesn't have it because he said he threw it in a dumpster a month ago. So he's like, sure, I'll agree. If you agree to go to the house and search and you don't find it, we put this thing to close, great. Let's go to the house and search. That's the only time I can see an attorney agreeing to go search a house. And maybe that happened or maybe it didn't. But without the understanding of how these judges and attorneys cut these deals and how the people that hire them are just pawns and we're paying the bills for them to play the game, and then they get paid at the end no matter what, and they have no skin in the game. They have nothing to lose. Both attorneys and the judge never have anything to lose. And in this case, this judge ain't losing shit. Actually, in this case, she agreed because of her outrageous conduct, because she conducted searches that she wasn't supposed to, because she didn't have any law or rule or precedent for her to allow her to search, and she did this all on her own. She agreed that she probably shouldn't have done it without admitting fault, and she agreed to pay a $5,000 fine to the board. And then she went back to work. Rick, she can't do that. She committed a crime and she should be arrested. Well, should, could, would, whatever. She wasn't. And she paid $5,000. And that was her discipline for doing this. And people go like, well, she can't do that. What? She's been doing it for 26 years. And she admitted to doing it at least 11 times and twice with guys without attorney. And then also in the complaint, he gets into ex parte decisions. If you go read it, you're going to see the term ex parte. Ex parte is where a judge isn't allowed to have an ex parte conversation with one party without the other party present. So if this lawyer comes in and goes, Judge, I need to talk to you about this case, the judge will always say, I can't talk to you without the other party here. Go get the other party. Go get the other attorney, set up a meeting, set up a time. Well, the other party's in court. We'll go get him and bring him in here and we'll talk about it. And the other attorney comes in and they talk about it. That's to make sure that both parties are always there so we can't claim later that the judge is being biased to one party. So ex parte communication is really bad. In my case against the DA, the judge, who was a lawyer that was retired and they just brought him back to hear the case, had numerous ex parte conversation with the other guy. And my attorney was like, there's nothing really we can do. We can file for contempt. They do it all the time. Nothing we can do about it. But so ex parte communication is frowned upon. It's not supposed to be legal, but it happens. And in this case, it happened. The judge talked to the female's attorney and made this decision with the female's attorney. And not only that, in the case, the attorney was able to use this as leverage on the other guy. The attorney told the federal agent, look, it's not above this judge to go search your house. And he goes, my client will accept $5,000, which tells me this whole case is bullshit. And it's even more egregious because the judge went over there for a $5,000 bill. Basically, the judge, the attorney told the guy, look, she wants all these photos and shit, and she'll take $5,000 to make it go away. Otherwise, this judge is probably going to search your house, and we're going to go take shit, and you don't want that to happen. So why don't you just give us $5,000? It's extortion. And civil trial, I used to fucking go, that's extortion. You can't do that. And the attorneys were like, civil trial is extortion. That's all civil cases are. It's extortion. It's legal extortion. I can tell you, either you give me this money or I'm going to sue you and I'm going to ask for this much money. It's extortion, but whatever. So this attorney tells this guy, pay the $5,000 or I'm going to have the judge go search your house. And he goes, fuck you, I ain't paying you $5,000 and you ain't bringing a judge over to my house. Well, guess what? The attorney told the judge, I offered him a $5,000 deal. He said, fuck you. And he said, we can't come to his house. The judge go, oh, really? He said, we can't come to his house? Watch this. Brought him into court, said, we're going to your house. That's what happened, I guarantee you. And they went to the house and showed the guy a lesson and went to his house and took shit off his walls and took more shit and took shit that wasn't even on the list because she found it and she goes, oh, yeah, that's mine. It's not on the list, but that's mine. And they go, okay, go ahead and take it and give it to her. I mean, they just stole from the guy. It's totally wrong. She wasn't arrested. She wasn't charged. She wasn't put in a grand jury. She's still a judge. And she paid $5,000 dish reward to make this go away. And I don't even think they censored her like they said you were a bad judge. I think they just said, well, yeah, it was a judgment call and she probably shouldn't have done it. And she's probably not going to do it again. And she paid $5,000 to admit that she probably didn't use good judgment. Anyway, that's the gist of the case. If you want to go review it, you can go review the whole thing. It's 38 cases. When you click on this link, it'll take you to this page. And there it is. Unfortunately, it doesn't say where he won or lost or what he won and lost. So everybody's going to come here and tell me how wrong I am and how I got this wrong or whatever. I'm at an hour and 3 minutes. The law is very convoluted. I can give you example after example on why I believe what I believe. I could be 100% wrong. But for you to come here and say you know all the facts and you got it right and I got it wrong, that just kind of shows you're pretty naive about the laws in the court system, and you really don't know what you're talking about. All right, we'll end that there. Y'all have a good one.